Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast that publishes every single Monday at youtube.com/carpoolgaming and podcast services around the entire planet Earth. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing, for telling your mom, for telling your friend. I forgot to say the patrons get it first. What is going on with me? You guys, I was so happy with like the hay that actually felt kind of nice and raspy. It felt great. This isn't the first thing that I'm doing today, and everything's going great. I hope you guys are doing well as well. Thank you so much for being here, for liking the video on YouTube and leaving that sweet engagement juice. Goodness gracious, you guys, we are rocking and rolling. I am so excited for the episode that you are about to hear, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself because if you're new, here's the deal. Every week I have sweet hangs with a stranger or a longtime friend from the internet, and we talk about life and video games. And if you want to be on the show, it's easy. Just tweet at me at Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. I've only had a little bit of the coffee, but I'm feeling the power of the caffeine. I am feeling it take over. I'm excited. We're about to go to the lake. A lake. Everybody says like the lake. Like that's kind of, is that a little narcissistic? Like the lake, like it's a fine lake that we're going to go to. There's going to be sand, I think. And there's hopefully going to be a little bit of sun and not too much wind and hopefully not too much sun. Hopefully we all stay safe. It's all going to be very good. I'm very excited. My family has returned to me. They were visiting Chelsea's side of the family over in Saskatchewan. They experienced Regina, and it's a very confusing place for 5-year-olds and 3-year-olds to go as we're all learning about various things, if you know what I'm saying, you guys. Regina is it's an interesting place. I'm glad they're home. Glad they returned to me. It was getting a little bit nutty here just by myself with the cat, with Maximus Aurelius. But goodness gracious, you guys, I'm excited about the show. But before we get into it, I want to let you know something very exciting. Drellish and Captain Logan have joined us at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, just like you guys can, to get exclusive perks. And I want to take a quick moment to thank all of our amazing and amazing, that's a throwback, patrons over there, especially our ultimate producers like the handsome Tony Baker from Quest for Pixels. Go to youtube.com/Quest for Pixels today. Dallas Ford, who co-hosts the Blame Game. Please support Dallas on YouTube to get these guys up to 100 subs. We gotta tweet that out. Make sure you guys hit the links. Goodness gracious. Emily O'Kelly, Trucker Sloth, Johnathan Brown with his new album In My Element, and a new EP as well. Purple Monkey, get on it, guys. Spotify and Apple Music. Lee Navarro, the fearless leader of the Phoenix Overdrive Extra Life team, the team that I am on, the team that I want you guys to be on. Many of you have already joined up. We are going to be promoting Extra Life pretty heavy over these next few months, guys. We gotta get going on this. I want you guys there. Whether you can come to Rome, New York or not, it'd be great to have you on the team. And Skinny Matt, who's hosting Carpool Gaming Nights. Carpool Gaming? Game Nights. Community is the word I'm missing there, Matt. Community nights. Oh my goodness gracious. We got to keep going. Follow Skinny Matt, twitch.tv/SkinnyMattK. All the links are in the show notes. It's really easy. Just flip it over. You're on your phone right now. Just like go to the next screen. Just click on all the links and hit the follow button. Our platinum producers, Brendan Myers, Marcus McCracken, Becky Rubin Navarro, and RJ Kern, and all of our gold members, Anna, Argo, Cecily Carrozza, Dallas Robbins, Drellish, Foolish Fuji, Jose Jimenez, Marcus O'Neill, Nagachaka, the Snack Network, Mr. and Mrs. Nasty Boots. You guys, what a roll we are on. Snack Network, Dave Moore was on last week, Marcus McCracken, and Nagachaka on before that. Jose Jimenez. Look at all these gold members. It's not a coincidence, I don't think. I don't know what it is. But I get into it a little bit today with Jose that I for whatever reason, earlier this week, I'm just like, I think I just need to sit down with Jose for maybe 2 hours. Maybe I'll owe him some money at the end of this. Maybe it's a session of some sort, but I'll get to that in just a quick second. The Patreon has been just crazy lately, especially on the content side. And it's been lovely to see people like Awesome Dave, I see you, and Brendan Myers and many others who have been taking to Twitter and various social media to just tell the good word, share the good word. There's so much content over there. We should start to, you know what we need? This is what good game companies do. They have charts, right, guys? They have spreadsheets. They have like release schedules and whatnot. That's what we need. It's exactly who actually thinks of these things. But goodness gracious, sweet hangs from last week with Donnie. We talked about like I want to buy a guitar. And we got a little discussion going on over there in the Discord. I also spent the week driving my dad's car. He's got a 20. I was gonna say old. It's not really that old. A 2016, I think, Volkswagen Jetta, 5-speed diesel. Oh my goodness, it's been fun to drive that thing around. Yesterday, as I record this, I got together with Ryan and Court, and we did the Yumi and Capri podcast. Got a little behind the scenes on what's going on with us, and the Pans Patreon podcast is back. I've been feeling really badly about not being able to get around to that, but I think I've got a hold on some things here, you guys. I think it's been going okay. This week has felt a lot like me getting like back to normal, like a bit of a reset. I've been having some headaches, as I've talked to you guys about, and I think I've got it cleared up. I think I've got a handle on it. Good massage, good chiro, everything's going well. But I've talked about some of this stuff on some other shows. I'm playing Xenoblade and Mario Kart Saturdays. I'm wondering, I want you guys to let me know in the comments below if Saturdays on YouTube for our streams, for community nights here on youtube.com/carpoolgaming, we're gonna at least have one weekend with Mario Kart because we got those new tracks. So, but should we stick with Mario Kart? Should we stick with Fall Guys? Should we go back to Halo? We got lots of options, and we like playing games with all of you guys, and it's super fun. The last thing that I want to mention to you guys too is I want to celebrate Court Lalonde here a little bit. I could celebrate really anybody on the team here at Carpool Gaming. But Court has tirelessly been striving to grow our socials, all of our social channels. It's just something that Ryan and I, prior to being Carpool Gaming, we weren't really able to give it the love, care, and attention that it really deserved, and we really need to help grow this whole thing. And Court's the perfect fit for it, man. He just took it over. He's like, I know exactly what I want to do, and I'm gonna do it, and we've let him do it, and now we're over 1,000 followers on Twitter, and you know, maybe to some people 1,000 is like, well, whatever, but like to us, it's a big deal. We haven't been anywhere close to 1,000 for a long time, and there really hasn't been any sort of actual proactive like activity to grow it. It's just been sort of accidental before, and now that Court is here, we're doing it. We're live on TikTok. We got our Instagram. We got our YouTube. We got all the things, man. It's so good. Speaking of YouTube, we hit the partner program a little while ago. I don't know if I talked about it on the show. So if you want to support the show, you can do it on Patreon. Patreon is probably the best way to do it. Patreon, it's monthly, just like the membership program, but Patreon doesn't take quite as much as YouTube does, but you get certain benefits here on YouTube as well. So you can support us on Patreon. You can support us on YouTube. You can support us by sharing the show, leaving ratings, all that stuff. It's all good. I'm just glad that you guys are here listening. And we've got a nice discussion about mental health here coming up with my good friend, Jose Jimenez. And I'm curious on your feedback on this. I think Jose and we created a space for ourselves to explore certain ideas. And I want to know what you guys think about this. Jose probably in the Discord as Ask What Not Why. So why don't we just jump right on into it? Here he is, my good friend and yours, Jose Jimenez. I feel like you could be like this, instead of me like yammering on for the minute and a half or whatever after show, it's like, okay, let's hear like Jose's take on this.
I don't know. Some of my takes are, I don't know why we're fighting.
Like just people in general?
Period. Is like, why are we even wasting energy that way? It's, I was going to say, well, first of all, I'm extremely honored you asked me to be on and come back.
I want to tell you while you mentioned that, just before you jump into your thing, I hadn't scheduled anything in August, and then it started kind of like things were happening, and a lot of people reaching out to do this, like, two people on at once and kind of thing that we'll get back to in next week and whatnot. But I had this week open, and my family's been away, and I'm like, I really just wanted, like, I don't know how else to say this. It sounds like bad to say, maybe. Like, I had options. But I'm like, you were top of mind. It's not like I was combing through a list or anything like that. It wasn't like, I was just like, I just want to talk to Jose. Like, it's just that kind of week. I just needed this. So it is I who should be thanking you for being so available on somewhat last notice. So I appreciate you, man.
Well, it is an honor to be invited. I absolutely love. I think I was talking to my partner about being on again, and he was like, are you going to be nervous this time? And I said, you've been with me for 10 years. So yes, I'm going to be nervous, but also, no, I don't think so. Cause we've already chatted. So
exactly. You know what the deal is.
I think it's just that was my very first podcast ever. And then I know this probably sounds corny, but I really do like this podcast. Like, love the way you do it, the way people just come on and chat. I think what I was going to mention earlier is that I've kind of been on a break from podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
I really only listen to Joe and Kyle.
Yeah.
Mostly because, and I don't mean to knock anyone.
I'll know exactly who you're talking about.
I love everyone. Rainbows and sunshines. No, I'm just kidding. But it just feels like everyone's saying the same thing or bringing up a lot of the same stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I find we've talked about me being in therapy too. One of my favorite things about my own therapy is my therapist says, I think I shared also that my therapist's name is Karen, which I think is hilarious. So Karen told me.
I bet she's a great person too.
She's the most motherly, what is that Xbox game that I was a bit jealous of? Wind? No. It's like the elders, the four, and they... Oh my God, this is horrible.
I'm gonna lose game credit. Normally, this is where Chelsea and I, my wife, we get along so well because she'll give me just some like random bit of information, like, oh, that's Chris Pratt. Like I don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's the person who did the
music.
thing with the?
So it's that game that. Oh God, this is gonna bug me until
the Elders.
No, it's not Elders. It's just like.
What kind of game is it?
Well, it's an indie game. Microsoft put it on hold, or they actually are having them redo it all together. God, what was it called? Evergreen. They showed it last year. Anyway, what I'm trying to describe...
It's engagement for the YouTube comments. People are typing it in now,
God,
so
I don't
appreciate
even
it.
want to think about that. Anywho,
it's just us. It's just us.
No, I know, but it's gonna bug me that I can't remember it. What I'm trying to describe is, here's one. Have you seen the movie Fern Gully?
Oh my gosh, yes, of course.
Do you remember the elder lady, the older one that's trying to teach Krista? That's who Karen is. She's just like this motherly, floaty, like she's just the sweetest person. Anywho, I can't even remember how we got on this. Oh, favorite thing about therapy is she says, because I've been in therapy for a very long time, and she's like, I think you're at the point now where you've got to really identify your red flags. Like if you notice you're starting to do this more, maybe we need to step back and do that. So I started to notice I roll my eyes a lot. Yeah. When I'm listening to podcasts, and I'm like, let me just go on a little bit of a break. And I think it's also because I've become obsessed with audiobooks.
Oh, nice.
I was listening, what was it? It was the one after Lord Cognito. No, wait, what am I thinking? Not Lord Cognito. Oh my God. Maybe it's because I know that we're in this now that I'm stumbling on people's
Being
names.
Super self-aware of the fact that we're actually recording a podcast now.
Yeah. Well, he's now he's the media's guy for Carpool Gaming.
Court
Lalonde. There we go.
Yeah, I know Court.
I was thinking
that guy.
So it was the episode after him. I think it was Ed Placencia. I can't remember. Anywho, I thought, if you're going to be on it, maybe catch up with what Sean's been talking about. And you were talking about, you think you would, like, once you do audiobooks, that's it. You're not going to go back to reading. Yeah. And I will agree, because I started to read the Dark Tower series. And it was really good. And then I got the audiobook. And the thing about audiobooks is it really does matter who's reading it. And the person reading it is amazing.
It better be always Morgan Freeman. Is kind of another. I don't think I talked about that. That's another reason why I haven't
a good point.
Gotten into audiobooks, because I don't think Morgan Freeman does all of them. So where do you start?
This is very true. But I prefer a person who has breadth. Is that the kind of like Joe, how he can do all these different voices?
Oh yeah.
and it's basically a whole skit that he's doing with maybe puppets. I don't know. Yeah, that's what. Anywho, so I think that's why. But slowly, I've been bringing some back in here and there. Like I like watching y'all on Wednesday because I work from home on Wednesday, and so I'll just have y'all going while I'm charting the Xbox Drive. An Xbox show, Sean. Can you believe it?
I can't believe we got to get you one. We got to find something and like just ship it over to you,
eventually.
Man.
I'm telling you, I'm not opposed to buying it.
Mark it down, man. Like wait for like Extra Life or something. Like
that's what I do.
This is the moment. You just called it. I love it.
Like,
anybody who plans on winning something, like I don't need to buy it. I'll just win a contest or something.
Well, I'm going to call upon the universe to send me the Skinny Matt energy, right? Because he wins everything.
Honestly,
I'm going to just channel it and then voila.
What if he keeps winning? Like, I feel like he's used up his luck. Like, that's the way the universe should work. But I don't know. Maybe he's just, I don't know. Maybe he's done some deal with the devil or something. It has to be.
Or he did, if we're going to believe in reincarnation, he's done really well, and now he's reaping whatever his past lives, in gamer talk, what his past lives has gained.
Well, of course, that's actually what I believe. I'm just talking shit,
Poor Skinny Matt. I will never forget you with the whole burying him, and every time you would get something, it would be shoveling. Hilarious. My God.
Yeah, I can't believe he's still friends with me. Like, to be honest,
he is so kind. I love popping in on his streams and him talking, and he's just sailing in his Sea of Thieves or playing Stardew Valley for the billionth time.
Yeah,
it's so chill.
So what have you been up to lately? You're not sitting around listening to podcasts and stuff. Like, what have you been doing lately?
I was also reflecting. So another thing I was
just
talking
thinking.
to my partner about.
I think this is what you and I have in common. Like, I think we just think. We just
think. And I was thinking, I'm like, wow, it's been over a year since I last talked to Sean, and this time I'm not going to go into it having something to talk about. Like, I'm not gonna put any pressure because there's really no pressure. And that's one of the advice. I think that's a part of the advice that you gave someone. You said you were just going with it. You're just going to go with the flow. And I thought, yes. Karen would say, and
whatever
means
works
yes.
for anybody. I cannot wait. There's an episode coming up in a couple of weeks here, and a certain guest who's probably listening right now knows that I'm talking about him. I have 14 pages of prep notes that I like. There's going to be no shortage of discussion topics, and I'm tempted to I'll just see, this is the test, and see if they're actually listening. I might just ignore all of the notes, which I don't want to do because obviously a lot of effort and time has been put into sending me these things, but I'm like, maybe I'll just veer over here.
So they sent you these notes? Yeah,
they're prepping for they're coming on the episode, coming on the podcast in a couple of weeks, and like, hey, just a few notes that maybe we can discuss these topics, and it's a thesis. Yeah, it's awesome. Like, and everyone maybe 1 in 50 guests kind of do that sort of thing. Like, hey, because you don't want to show. I guess everybody feels like this. You don't want to show up and go like, so how is your cat? Like, you don't want to do that.
Well, how is your cat, Sean? What did you call it? A barn cat? I think
he's a barn cat. Yeah, he was on a farm barn, kind of like, he would catch his own food, and now he's domesticated. He's in the house, and it's just been me and him lately.
Well, as far as this person goes with their thesis, that sounds like me at work. Like, I over prepare. I'm like, okay, so literally, I'm like, okay, so my desk, okay, and then their seat because, COVID, and then now monkeypox. Okay, you're going to be over there. And then I have the pillow.
I'm not ready.
And I'm like, well, it's just so much. I don't want to get into kind of the state of the world, just our world right now.
I love it.
But that's totally me. I'm like, these are the questions I'm going to ask the patient and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I don't want this to feel like work, which is why I was like, no, let's just let it go where it goes. But
how about like reverse work? Like, well, I get to like pretend that I just like, let's
you're
dive
the therapist?
Deep into the hose. Exactly. Let's dive deep into the mind. Well, I'm curious about that because, like, I think Like, do you feel like even when you're not working, people come to you for like off duty? Like,
Absolutely.
give me all the advice, give me your counsel.
Well, I think I talked with you about this last time a little bit, that kind of what brought me into therapy. Originally, I was majoring in accounting, right? And I just was not pleased at all. And I just kept...
Same thing.
I was trying to talk to somebody today about how accounting and therapy are very similar, and I'll get on that in a moment.
I like it.
I was sitting there waiting for my glasses at Lens Crafters. I'm just kidding. I don't remember where I was, but I was sitting there and this lady just came and she sat next to me and she's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good." And because I usually don't socialize very much, believe it or not. She just started telling me her whole life story. And I'm like, I want to say this is the first time this has happened to me, but seems to be like a theme. And then I remembered a psychology class I took and how much I liked it. And really, it was originally going to be around being a school therapist. But unfortunately, here in Texas, you have to be a teacher in order to be a school therapist. No, that journey is not for me. I barely want to counsel adolescents. I can, but no. Anywho, so that's kind of, how do we get on that? What got me into therapy?
Well, I was wondering if people just come up to you. Because to be honest with you, I've been trying to be like very aware of it, even myself, because there's just things have been busy and stuff. I'm like, I feel like I need like a Jose talk, but at the same time, I'm like, that'd be like asking like a friend who's like a massage therapist, like, can you just like rub my back like a little bit, like.
Well, I think it's the advantage of knowing someone that listens professionally is kind of it would still be, I would say, somewhat unbiased, but I think I've kind of, because I've been doing this now, oh my God, for 10 years.
Good for you.
That I kind of know that line now where it's like, oh, Jose, you need to redirect them over here, as opposed to like keep going like you would, because I wouldn't respond to you the way I would respond to a patient or a client. I'm so used to calling them patient now because now I work somewhere different. And that's where I was going to kind of go when you asked me what's been my life now. But I do have people in my life that will kind of, I don't want to say take advantage of it, because that's not really what it is. It's just like they know, I promote it. Like, come to me if you need help trying to navigate like insurance, like where to go to find a therapist. What does this even mean?
Navigate the system.
Especially because I specialize in addiction. And so people will be like, hey, so my partner does blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't seem like they can do X, Y, and Z unless we are blah, blah. So, okay, well, that's a warning sign. So just stuff like that, But I also think it's, one of my friends told me once, I have this way of saying certain things that it just like really resonates. And I don't always recognize that. There's been a couple times that I've said it and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm like a therapist. Like,
look at me go.
Wow. Oh, let me document that I said that. So I have record of what I did. But yeah, I'm open to anyone who needs help, because that's kind of, that's what we do, really. But be there.
I feel like the core of my thought process, which I was about this time an hour ago, I was just thinking, I was just sitting just like, and sometimes I worry about you and people like you because of that very notion, like the fact that your 9 to 5, so to speak, is very different from most people's, I would say, in terms of the emotional toll and the dancing on the word like baggage is definitely not baggage, but just like people go to you to just like dump their stuff. And so like you definitely need to be able to like have some sort of release or separation. But like, is that just the way of the world, of your world, that people will just always come to you with stuff?
Well, I think that's the other thing, right? I think a lot of times it can seem, and we do call it baggage. We call it, whatever the patient wants to call it, trauma, you name it. And the idea is initially, yes, they're kind of unloading it. And it's almost like we're just then standing there looking at it. But
Right.
what I try to do is help them compartmentalize it and put it maybe where it needs to go, right? Mm-hmm. This is no longer, or maybe it's been serving you for so long, but now it's doing more hurt than help. And I kind of use the analogy too with some patients that it's hard for us to hold or to reach for new things when we're holding all these old things, right? Mm-hmm. I can't, my hands are already full. I've got to be willing to be vulnerable to let some of this sit over here to even try this other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I think people in my life, there are some people that I'm laughing not at people. Well, no, okay. I'm laughing at myself and people, because I think people have this idea that I'm this very kind and gentle and all-loving person. And I've told this to my patients. I'm like, Jose at work is not Jose at home. Like, they are very much different people. And I remember we talked about this because at the time we last talked, I was not doing well at all.
Right.
And my therapist and I had just talked about this in particular, that I have to be willing to accept this part of Jose that, everyone wants to be around, that they think he's funny and they want to like welcome him. I welcome that with open arms, but I also have to accept this Jose that does get depressed, that does get anxious a lot, that does that thinking that he loves to do does attack him and thinks, you're not competent. They're going to see right through you, X, Y, and Z, yada, yada. I have to be willing to accept him as well. And because then that makes me whole, right? It's almost like, kind of like being in denial. And then like, once you see it, like that's freeing. So that's kind of what that reminds me of. But I'm blanking on how we even got on that.
Only the tape will tell, Jose.
Well, it is a matter of, and so my answer is it's a matter of opinion. That's my answer.
Yeah. Because I think about your own mental state coming into a situation where you're trying to help somebody else, being well aware of your own journey as well. And like, you actually anticipated one of my questions, which was going to be a little bit about like, how do you reconcile those facts that like you're there trying to help somebody else, but like, I guess you've come around on the journey that like, not just because you're there to help somebody else doesn't mean you've got all of your stuff together, because nobody does. Like, really, like when you really think about it, like who really does?
Yeah. Or so who does all the time, right? That's the part.
Good point. Yes, because we definitely have those days, those moments. Maybe they're even like a fleeting second, it's just like, yeah, things are pretty good. And then gone.
Yeah, I think that's the disadvantage of our brains, is that it's designed to only, to first notice what's wrong, not notice what's right. Mm-hmm. And so that I really try and bring that and highlight that we have to recognize that all of these emotions and thoughts and things are just roads we're walking. None of these are destinations. The only destination in life, and this might be triggering, is death. That's the only for sure destination all of us are going to meet, right? And so in the meantime, we're just navigating a series of
stops along the way. Yeah,
that's really it.
It's amazing that we ended up here, because that's I don't even know what I was listening to or reading, that like that is a theme that's been in my life over the last like probably 7 to 10 days or so, of just like this, things are temporary. Like these are just moments, and that's so interesting. Like what about like, how much ownership do you take in terms of like somebody else's situation? Like that's gotta be like, you are a kind-hearted person. You want to see people better. You want to help people, but like ultimately it's up to them to do the thing. Like you can say the most profound, you can have those moments, but like they still have to like go back to their lives. So like, how do you wrap it? You must have like a couple like good stories, a couple good patients that like, yeah, you're doing it. That makes it worth it.
Yes. Even the patients that are not doing it, I still try to remind them, but you're still showing up. So there's a part of you that
Good
really
point.
wants to do it. God, I'm in therapy mode right now. But that's also the thing is like, it's hard for me to turn that off when I'm not at work, whatever. But, I think that's one of the reasons why. I don't know how this works in Canada. I might be looking into moving to Canada, given the
please do. Can somebody please make the move and just show that it's possible and that it actually yes.
Well, so of course the state of the
we have everything
I started
you
to
guys
reflect. Started to reflect on where we were last year and where I'm at now, and I was like, I want to tell Sean that things are better here, but actually. No. I don't know that the U.S. is any better.
How I know it's not? Like, aside from the obvious, is I'm hearing more and more people poke fun at Canada, and that's how I know you guys are really sad. It's I already know it. Yeah.
Hurt people. That's what's happening right now. Yeah.
Big time.
But I was going to say, I don't know what the process is for therapists there, right, in training, because for here, you have to, of course, get your master's. And then you have to take a big test, and then you have to do a lovely 3,000 intern
it's very
hours.
Similar. I don't know if it's 3,000, but it's very something like that. Yeah.
Okay,
that's unpaid. Actually the therapist
unpaid
I had.
3,
no, I don't think it's unpaid. That's a lot because
y'all care about y'all's people. That's
a long. Well, I mean, no, it is definitely paid. My therapist, who I still see. I started seeing her when she was what I think it was called provisional. I started seeing her and I must have been like one of her first patients or first clients or whatever. Like,
I will never forget my first patient ever.
Oh, really?
Ever. Never, ever will I.
Oh, that's awesome.
Patient. I don't want to. Well, no, I'm not supposed to have patients. The point is, it's a person that I will just never forget. But
I love that.
But you said. Kind of what is it that we do? I think that's why we have to do all those hours, because if you would have met just starting to be a therapist, Jose, I sometimes maybe I'm not supposed to say this either. Sometimes we record our sessions because we're supposed to put them and analyze them with our supervisor, so they can say, yeah, when you said that, maybe we want to say this, or look at your body language.
Yeah, that was the case for me.
Yeah. Oh, so they recorded
I was well aware. Yep, I was. Yeah. I don't think it was video recorded though, so I'm not.
Was it just audio?
That, but I think it was just an audio recording of the actual conversation.
Yeah. Usually for my 3,000, we did audio.
And at that time, I was podcasting even then, so I was like. I think I was like 4 or 5 sessions in where I was like, am I podcasting right now? Like, I'm sorry. I started to become very aware, like how much of this is like, because I wanted to get the full benefit out of it. Like I was fully committed to that because I was in such a terrible spot. I'm like, this has to be better. I've got to dive all the way in on this.
So I've been wanting to tell you this for a very long time, Sean. Are you sitting? No, you're not sitting. It's fine.
I'm sitting.
Oh, you are sitting. Perfect.
Yep.
Every time you do the hey, I imagine you running from one side of the room to the other side of the room.
I stand for that.
Back to the other side of the room. And so when you said that you're in session and sometimes you think you're podcasting, I'm like, please tell me you don't enter session. Hey, like as you're going into sit down.
I'm a cartoon character.
Because that would fill me with joy, and I don't know how a therapist would be able to keep a straight face.
Next time I will do it.
Hilarious.
It's actually been far too long.
We do either video or audio. At the beginning, we did video because they want to see our body, and I will never forget like looking at myself. I'm like, why are you? And here's my whys. Right, this is before I stopped asking the whys. Why are you so scared? I don't know that I would trust you, Jose. Look at you.
Right. Yeah.
But of course, we're our worst critic. But I just love thinking about...
You totally are.
I love thinking about that, like the whole difference there. Because through all of that, then doing the 3,000 hours, I mean, there are some patients I remember, and my supervisor's like, this is so interesting to me that you are crying over this patient not wanting to go to rehab, and the patient could not care less. Wait, is that the right way to say it? Could not care less.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it like just clicked for me. I'm like, okay, I'm getting to like my boundary is getting too enmeshed and I have to do my own work, again, that's why always is a long time. I like to say a good therapist has their own therapist, and God, please be a therapist that sees therapists, because they are very quick to call us on I can say, so one thing I don't like is I can be very deceiving, believably deceiving to others as well as to myself, because I want them to kind of get it. And so I'm willing to say whatever I need to for you to get that you need help or that something's wrong, right?
But why is that deceiving?
I don't know. Somebody told me that the other day. They're like, I don't know if I would tell my patients I'm deceiving, because sometimes I'll tell them, I can say certain things in a way that I guess it's because I know. I don't know. This is a good question.
It's funny because I have similar thoughts specifically about work, actually, which is a very different type of work. But I often think about the power of the spoken word, which I've become quite a bit more attached to over the last 5 or 6 years or so, in what you're able to do, what you're able to unlock, what you're able to persuade people to do. And I'm not trying to say that like I'm manipulating people or anything, but like where I do think of it almost like a game where you have like a dialogue tree. You could say this, or you could say this, or you could say this, and the person who you're talking to or the group who you're talking to is going to have a certain reaction. And I find that fascinating. Like I find that I don't know what that says about me to think about it like that, but like, because I definitely, Ryan knows this very well about me. Court is, I think, learning about it from me, but like, I will get oddly specific about a way something is said, because I've definitely seen where, okay, well, if we say it this way, you're not getting what you need to have happen. And if you do say it a different way, then something else happens. And I've had too many like reinforcing experiences that I can't ignore it now. So now I think about just in the future, like there's a couple things at work that I would love to have happen. And I'm like, what is really between the current state and the desired state? I'm like, it's a conversation. And how weird is that? It's literally just a conversation. It's just the power of the spoken word.
Absolutely. I think what that says about you, Sean, is that you're a gamer and we love dialogue choices. You're an RPG gamer, to be specifically. But I've never thought about it like that, like answer choices. I've also started trying to play Mass Effect, and I love
that's exactly what I'm thinking about.
It's like the red is sinister or whatever, and the blue is whatever those words are. I'm trying not to think about video games right now, but even though we're on a video game podcast, but that's what comes to my mind.
To why
I would really like you to be to narrate yourself.
Oh, my inner monologue is always happening.
Evil, and then this
sometimes, because sometimes I will have that. Like, I've really started to embrace like that. Like, I'm just gonna stop for a second. I'm just gonna think about this, and if that's weird to the other person, like that's whatever. I don't want to make the wrong choice here, because when you jump to your reaction, maybe it's not the best one.
Well, I think that also speaks to the work you've done with yourself. Like even you speaking openly about, being in therapy, and just really one of the, I think the greatest tools any person can have is the tool of self-reflection, right? But
I totally agree. Yes.
Not self-reflection that's totally negative. Self-reflection that's like, let me think
being
about
self-aware.
This. Yeah, because I don't remember, did I share last time a story? Another thing people come to me for, also I'm a gay male, for those who are just now meeting Jose or hearing me. They come to me because they think their child's gay, or, hey, did you know blah, blah, blah? And do you think they're gay? It's like, oh, well, gosh, if only I could wave my wand.
Come to you for a gaydar or something.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, well, hold on. Let me look at them and I'll see. Let's see what happens in my nether. Anyway, my point is, one of my friends, she came to me and she's like, Jose, I have this patient, and they think that their child is gay, and they want to know how to like convey to the child that it's okay and that they're accepting. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So there's really nothing that you can say other than I accept you. But also something I have found that's helped me even as a therapist in analyzing my own self or how I interact with others is, if I don't want to be perceived as homophobic, what am I doing then so that as to not be perceived as that. So is this parent thinking like, what are they doing to show this inclusiveness? That's what I would focus on, as opposed to painting the house with rainbows and putting "it's okay" on it or something, right? It's like, oftentimes we don't think about that, because I even talk about this with people who are like, oh, I'm not racist. And I'm like, that's hard for us to all say we're not something, because we may not know that we are. And that's the part, I think, also therapy. And
who wants to be a bad thing? Like, who actually
nobody wants to be, but I might be. You see what I mean?
Well,
That's
the numbers work out that, you know.
Yeah, statistically, Sean, there's 2 people on this call, and one of them, I'm just kidding. No, and you may not be what I would call like the whole, this is the thing too, right? Is we have black and white thinking. Either I'm racist or I'm not racist. And like, there's a hole in between there. And
that's interesting. Well, the world can't put up with that sort of nuance.
Oh no, they can't even put up with pronouns. My goodness, it's just too much for them. Yeah. So what? I can't even, Sean. I feel like we're losing. I feel like I'm losing. Usually last time I'm like, no, Sean, we're going right back over here. And now I'm just like,
I have kind of a big question. I don't know if this is.
Sorry if you can hear my dog. By the way,
you're fine. Don't worry about that. My cat is louder than your dog, for goodness sakes. Again, I was sitting thinking about stuff, and I think this is actually more of like a work kind of thing, but I think I would apply it to the rest of life, as I've come to grips over the last couple of years that, you know, everybody's struggling and life is hard. Why is life so hard? Why is this so challenging? Like, what are we doing to ourselves? Why is this so, like, do we have a choice in the matter? Does it have to be this?
Absolutely,
this hard?
We have choice. Well,
I'd like to think so. Like, it's one. Sorry to interrupt. Like, it's like, fine. I feel like it's been a nice realization that if I'm struggling, probably everybody else is, and that's just the way of the world. Okay, that somehow makes it better. And then I sit on that for about a year and a half, and then I come on the other side and go, like, really? Like, it just has to be? Like, it just has to be.
Well, I don't know that it has to be, right?
Yes, but I don't think so either.
I think it goes off of perspective, though, right? I was talking to, we'll say a friend earlier about something very similar. And they were just going over like, I don't know, I just do all these things and I think I'm going down the right path. And it's like nothing goes the way I want it. It's like everything I touch just messes up. Yeah. And I put all this work in it. So it's supposed to, and it should be better. I'm supposed to be in a better place than I am right now. And here is the thing. And parents, if you don't want to hear your child hear this, our parents lie to us. The world lies to us by saying, you put in the hard work and you're going to reap great things. That is not true. You can put all the work. All that means is that you've put work into it. That's it. The world owes us nothing.
It's funny because I actually hear those two things that you said as different. But I agree that, especially with the second thing, that we are not owed anything. I think the part about hard work, it's about you have to be on the right track. Like, you have to be in the right gear with the right tire for the right road, like all that kind of stuff. It's not just about, wow, I'm busting my ass. Like, if I'm just doing jumping jacks, I'd be like, well, why haven't I traveled down this road? It's like, well, the work isn't, the activity is not correct.
Exactly. But I think when you talked, when I was listening to you say what you said earlier about reflecting and thinking, does it have to be this way? One of the biggest parts that we put on ourselves is comparing ourselves to other people. Comparison is the thief of joy. I cannot remember who said that. I think it was Roosevelt. I don't know. But that always rotates in my brain. If I find myself like, oh, this person has more likes than I do, or, oh, this person got more, whatever it is, or gets more interaction. The brain is, when we compare ourselves, we're robbing ourselves that I still got something. I'm still going, right? And so I think you and I talked about this too last time, about we're kind of in a world where it's all about what am I producing? What do I have to show? What's the next thing? What's the next thing? And that's really, according to Buddhism or Buddhist teaching, that's our suffering. We are inflicting this suffering on ourselves by continuing to try and reach the next thing. There's that, I think, is a big
That's
root.
Interesting. And I don't mean to put you or myself in the chair too much. And I'd love to go back to our first conversation, because like, hopefully I'm in a different place than then. Like, hopefully maybe that's the whole point. We're always just trying to be a little bit better than yesterday. But like, even though I'm deeply entrenched in this like content creation world, I really do think somebody else can call me out, Court or Ryan, or somebody else can call me out on this. Like, I really do think I've separated myself from comparing other people or comparing myself to other people. Like, I really, if nothing else, like, I'm embracing others and like lifting others up as best that I can, but still like what you said something, I can't remember, like it sounded so universal. And the sad part is it was about like the suffering can be so universal, but it's individualistic. Everybody finds their own way to be shit, this sucks. You know what I mean? Like, it's different for everybody.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's one thing I really do admire about Buddhist teaching is when people hear that word suffer, they think pain or like what we're physically going through. And it's like, no, there's all kinds of suffering. There is, I want to be the best all the time. It's these unobtainable destination points, right? That's kind of aligning what we talked about earlier. I get it all the time. Jose, I just want to be happy. And it's like, well, Jose's first thought is, well, then be happy. But if they could, Jose, they would have already done that. Yeah. So I have to help them see, well, happiness is not just, oh, I have all the things and now I'm happy. No, because the moment you do, it's going to be, well, what's next? Or what is that, buyer's remorse? When we have it and it's like, well, I'm here. Right.
It is. Yeah. I don't know if it is buyer's remorse, but that is definitely a thing where you've got your sights set on something, you're looking forward to it. And then it's like, it's there. And you're like, was the build up better than is it the chase better than the catch kind of thing? Like, I mean, you can equate that to anything, like possessions or people, career goals or relationships. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So basically we're just discovering that around every corner, every cubic inch of the world that we live in is just like, well, there's disaster over there. There's disaster over there, just depending on how you look at it. Morning, night,
disaster, whatever. I think is very heavy, right?
Of course.
Like you said, challenge. Yeah. So the reason I said perspective is we often preach, if I'm not being challenged, I'm not growing or I'm not learning.
Yeah.
And again, that sounds like a very absolute rule. So I would loosen that. I would probably say I'm more likely to be learning if I'm being challenged or it's uncomfortable. I think that's one thing I admire about, this podcast. You do touch on things that people, I'm like, oh, they're really talking about mental health. Like before I heard this podcast, I didn't really hear straight men talk about, well, I don't know if I've even heard gay men talk about mental health, but the point is, like, that's absolutely not something I had seen or heard before.
Well, that's to your point earlier about like, there's no production really to this. There's no notes ahead. It's just like whatever. And it just so happens to be something that's top of mind. I don't think I ever really like sought out, you know what, there's like a niche, there's like a need for this mix of mental health chat with video game. Like, that's definitely not, I didn't even think I was really like looking for any sort of thing that was remotely even close to therapy. All I knew is just that small talk bored me and I couldn't believe how much it dominated our lives. And it's like, well, what if we just like, if you sit down with somebody for an hour, I don't think that people can small talk for an hour. Like, that's sort of like, you get over that within the first, well, maybe you can. I don't know.
Well, I was thinking, I don't know. Some people really try hard to avoid really going on.
Yeah. And one of these days I'm going to crack Ryan Turford. He's just telling me about the weather every week. And
I was going to start this by saying, well, the weather here, Sean. Which, by the way, he wins the birthday video.
Oh my gosh.
I fell out of my chair. I was folding clothes. I was laughing my butt off.
Clothes.
My dog was like, what are you doing? And it's like,
what a reaction.
I'm like, Whiskey, you don't understand. Ryan is in front of something and he's pointing out the weather. Good. Maybe there's a moose there. I don't know what they have up there, but
yep.
It was so funny. He wins. Yeah. I was originally going to put on a Sean Connery mask and wear capris, like really tall capris, and have my mother drive me around in her truck and me be in the back unopening like a happy birthday thing. Because that's what sticks out to me. And I remember you mentioning, or I remember, not to bring us down, but I remember Bobby's one of his last tweets, right, was about you unboxing the Xbox. That was his last tweet. And so that I'm like, that really means something to Sean. So how can I captivate that? Okay, well, my mom has a truck because I don't want to contribute to global warming, but I am because I'm going to ask her for the truck. But then she had the flu, and so I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing this. I'm not trying to catch anything.
Oh my gosh. Bob, I was thinking about Bobby earlier today. I mean, I think I probably think about Bobby pretty much on a daily basis. But yeah, like the kids haven't been here. My wife hasn't been here all week. So I've definitely had like a lot of just like cleaning, thinking time that I normally fill with a podcast. Like normally I'm listening to something at like 2 times speed. So like there's really no time for my own thoughts. But yeah, no, I think about Bobby pretty much on a daily basis. Like it's gotten like less pain. Like when I think about him, it's not like, oh God, it's not like that. It's still every now and then it can grip me, but it's not as like constant as I thought it was going to be. And even I'm glad that I've been able to talk about this sort of thing like so much because, and sadly I've had too much experience in losing friends, but coming to know that I don't have to feel bad about not feeling as bad over time because I've kind of gone through that already. And it's like, I'm glad that I'm not dealing with that with Bobby on this one. Like it's yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Makes complete sense. That's another part of the, I should be this way, right? Comparing ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, these people are grieving this way. Why doesn't mine look like that? Or, I've had people tell me, oh, they didn't care because they didn't cry at the funeral. And I think,
right.
Well, I didn't. I try not to be a therapist. So I'm just like, I'm here to grieve. I'm not here to counsel, but I just tell them we just don't know what our grief looks like. And talking, I don't remember if I shared this with you. When I told somebody what I did for a living, I'm like, oh, I'm a therapist. And they're like, oh, so you just like sit there all day and listen? And I'm like, oh God, if only it were that easy to just sit and listen. But there is, that I do think is a huge part of lifting that burden, right? Getting it out, talking it out. Because if we don't talk it out, we stuff it. When we stuff it, it comes out as a stomach ache or diarrhea or worse. I mean,
seriously,
you name it.
Yeah, I've had it manifest in so many different ways, and I see some of our friends sharing it on Twitter as well, and just it manifests in like surprising ways. Some things that are a little bit more obvious, like I can't sleep or whatever. But like sometimes it's like what is your diet like? Like what's your personal hygiene like? Like what is your activity level? Like all these different sort of things that all steamroll into things. And I don't know. I'm glad to have been able to. I don't know how I would be here at this stage without like just talking about it, like figuring it out. And it's like any other challenge that I face. Like I don't know what the answer is, but I know that if I just like sit here and do nothing, that like it's not going to get any better. And that's not part of my personality, whether it's mental health or content creation or work and professional life. Like we must do something, like that's me.
No, there's that mentality. What am I doing? Doing.
Yeah. Yes. Big time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, how much content are we pushing out right now?
So. You commented earlier, you said you would like to go back and look at where you were and kind of see if there's been any growth. And hearing you since then, you do seem less hard on yourself. I will say that. Every now and then I'll hear something that I'm like,
there it is.
There's Sean. Mm-hmm. But that's going to happen, right? Because again, we've been doing it for so long. It's like, okay, but I'm confident that you bring yourself back, right? I think one thing I really admire, or I guess admire is the word, about you lately, and not that you weren't doing this before, but I'm seeing it even more now, is you're kind of with me with the, why are we fighting?
Yes.
Where's all this negativity coming from? How is this productive? How is this, how are we reaping from this nonsense? Like
it's time consuming and mind consuming. Like, I had a realization. Finally got back to doing the Pants podcast for patrons this week, and I was doing the thankful things, and I was like, I'd always talk about, like, I'd invite people to do it along with, like, play along at home and, identify things you're grateful for. It's a good exercise. And as I was talking it through, I'm like, you know what I'm not able to do while I'm saying positive things about the things I'm grateful for? I'm not able to allocate any mind space whatsoever to negativity. Zero. It's impossible. I can't do it. I can't be like, oh, what a delicious Diet Pepsi this is. That's the entirety of my mind space. There's nothing in my mind or coming out of my mouth or anything that's like, oh, but blah, blah, blah. Like, I can't even make it up. I can't even come up with an example. And it's like, what a beautiful space to put to
let
choose
yourself be
to put
in.
ourselves into it. Yes. Like,
yeah.
How many times have I done the thankful things on the Pants podcast? And I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing. Or this is in addition to other things that I thought I was doing. That's phenomenal. So I was very happy to, again, I just talk things out. The power of the spoken word that was it's the same brain that's doing the talking, but for whatever reason, it was uttering the words and just kind of like flowing it through that helped me land on something that maybe I had a moment like you did too. Like, that was profound. Like,
yeah.
At least to me, like, whether it was to anybody else, I don't know, but I was like, it was a shift.
I think, again, that's another thing I think that attracted me so much to your podcast is hearing your process and also how similar it sounds to my process. And so I'm like,
that's why we're friends.
Or I think it's that likeness, right? Like sees like and kind of gets it. I think that's the growth, right? And there's so much power and awareness that once we become aware, there's no more denying it. I cannot deny it. I mean, I could, but it's not going to get me anywhere to pretend like I don't recognize I'm doing this or thinking this or, and I try and tell people, use your, it's going to sound horrible, use your brain against itself. When my brain is all negative, it's like, it's what you do with the Happy Meal, right? It's like, okay, brain, well, if you want to play that game, I'm going to list off 50 things I'm thankful for right now, or that are going great, or that I'm grateful for that I have in my life in this moment. Do it against itself, because it'll be like, it will say, okay, I get it. I'm going to calm down. After
Isn't
some
that
time.
Amazing? You're totally right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It like it's time. Like it's a conversation. Like it's a back and forth thing. And that's where, when you talked about like one Jose versus another, like that's not like a split personality thing. It's just like different sides to us. It's like, it's different energy levels. It's different, like kind of everything I was talking about before. Like, what's our diet? Like, what's our activity levels like different parts of us kind of like show up in a way.
I don't know why I'm also wanting to say this now about, I think a big part of this is to forgiving ourselves for when that other part comes out. Like, I had written into this small indie show. You may have heard of it. It's called The Trophy Room. And I had written in about how negative, I was like, now that we know the release date of God of War, what do we think that the community is going to cry about next?
I know.
And then when I put that and Joe read it, he started to bring up a point that my mind didn't let myself see in that moment, that now there's a lot of us being negative about people being negative. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't think about me doing that. And so I just went into the Discord and I was like, I am so sorry for just recognizing that that's the type of energy I'm putting out. And I'm going to make it a point to not let my fingers just do that, because it's very easy. That gets me in trouble, believe it or not.
Well, I do believe it, because maybe it's part of like a fixer or a helper, but like, and a very logical, you talked about like our process being very similar. I think that you and I would kind of get to, okay, we identify a problem. We're going to tackle this problem by talking about the problem. And when it comes to negativity, it's like, couldn't be further. I don't know. Maybe there is examples of where that actually works, but what I've come to realize is that like it's actually so much better just to ignore it. It's a classic Simpsons episode with the Treehouse of Horrors. They just ignore the ads and they all fall over, they die. And it's like, how do you promote that? Like, how do you cultivate ignoring the thing that you're trying to, like, you can't, it's hard to do both. It's more of like a overall behavioral kind of change rather than, don't be negative about The Last of Us Part 1 being $70. Like, I just added to it. I just acknowledged the devil in the room, right?
Yeah, we're giving it power. Well, you say ignore, and I don't know if, and I'm not saying this to combat you. This is how I would talk even with a patient. It's not that I don't like that word ignore. It's that I know it's not helpful, because if I'm in pain, I can ignore only to a point, right? But it's still going to be there. Mm-hmm. I think a part that makes it more healing, more able for us to move forward is accepting it for what it is. I accept that Jose in that moment was negative. And so now that I'm aware that I can easily do that, I'm just going to see, it reminds me of like seeing somebody do something that they're not supposed to, and you're just like, and then just moving on with your life, not necessarily contributing or pointing out, right?
So would you, if you could do it over again, like realizing that the comment or the question that you wrote into the show was maybe contributing towards some sort of negative energy, if you got a do-over, like what would you do? Would you not write anything at all? Would you reword your question? Like, what are your new dialogue options given this is the theme?
Well, so truly I wouldn't do it over, because if I didn't do it, I would have not have learned that I'm doing that. See what I mean?
Okay.
And that's kind of what I mean, kind of tying it back to the suffering or the challenge. Like, everyone's going through challenges. It's like, yeah, but if we don't go through it, we won't then learn how to deal with it next time. And it'll be maybe super easy. So that's also what I meant by, like, when I look back at the beginning Jose as a therapist, I'm like, he thought that was bad. That person who is crying once a week. And now you're dealing with someone who is being beaten once a week minimum. That was nothing, Jose. Like, but he needed to go through that, right?
Yeah. So that's part of the self-awareness and reflection. Like, you have to be able to be vulnerable with yourself, and not, like, this is where it's such a fine line. How critical do you be of yourself? Because you can be very paralyzing about it. But if you're not reflecting, then you're not like pulling the lessons out of the experience, and it's like, what a waste. Then it's just suffering for nothing.
Well, it could be for nothing, right? Or we could do insanity and just keep doing it over and over over. Have you ever heard of a person named Brene Brown?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She's great. Yeah.
Okay.
She actually, it's funny because there's a clip of her talking about blame. This isn't necessarily related, but she talked about blame in this, like, it's just frustration and anger just like coming out of your face, and like you deploy it on somebody else, and how terrible that all is. And oddly enough, it's funny that you bring her up today, because I saw so many different stories in the news this week about Sony blaming this, and this about their current situation. And like the word blame came up a lot with respect to companies acknowledging certain like market conditions. And they said like Sony blames this, or Ubisoft blames this, and Nintendo. I'm like, maybe this is me just getting too choosy about my words. I'm like, they're not blaming it. Like, blame is just so childish. It's like it's so much excuses. Like, I didn't think that they were doing that, but maybe I'm just getting too much into the blame thing. But you're talking about Brene Brown.
Well, the blame thing, right? I think that's the other thing is when I read. This is the other reason, because I've also kind of stopped even looking at news about certain things, because I think people know they want to write it in a way that's going to get me to look at it.
I know.
Like with the whole, I think Joe and Kyle were talking about this yesterday, or maybe today. Well, yeah, yesterday was Thursday, about people saying, oh, Sony is saying it's a bad thing that Xbox has Call of Duty.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, yeah. In my brain, I'm like, John Travolta when he walks in on Pulp Fiction and he's like looking around like, is this news? Like, what is this?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Are we just getting this? Like, maybe.
I know.
Yeah. And so to me, that's what that is. I find myself rolling my eyes at stuff like that because when I hear such pointed language, it's like, oh, that's it. But I'm right there with you about words.
This gets into like talking about like, how do we address this? This is something very top of mind that Babbitt, like Joe and I have been talking about on the console war room a little bit, which is like, we have, as content creators, we have a choice. It's not like somebody hands us a script and says like, this is what's going to be on your show this week. We have a choice of what we can talk about. And I'm really trying to figure out what like the best way to discuss this is in a way that expresses like what my thoughts are on it, but also promote like maybe there's a different way that we could do this without being so trashing other people for doing it the way they are, because they're doing it for whatever reason. They feel like that's either the best content or that's what's generating the clicks or whatever, like whatever the reason is. But I think that we can all agree that we're like, many of us are just getting a little sick and tired of the overall commentary and narrative around video games and how sad that is, and how we can just be like thinking just a little harder, taking it just a little further to be just a little different than everything else. And how does that show up? How do we actually do that? And I just don't know that enough people care about it. But like everything else, I'm like, let's just talk about it. But I don't want to add negativity to the thing. Like, it's very complex, Jose.
It's so many layers. But I think the other thing is we've got to be cautious about the fact that we consume video game news in a different way than other people, right? So it's already skewed. We're seeing it over and over. And I think that's what happened with me with podcasts is I'm listening to great podcasters and I really like hearing a lot of this stuff and getting different perspectives, because sometimes somebody will bring up the same topic and say something like, oh, that I get.
Yeah.
Right? But I think because we're so, and I think that's the reason why everything's just so heated right now with politics, with the world, it's because we're all consuming so much information way differently than we used to. It's like right here and next and next. I think we talked last time. I was thinking about, I had gone on like a break from social media because I just couldn't take any more hearing about Trump. And some people were like, well, how are you going to get your news? And I'm like, okay, well, there's a problem if you're getting your news solely from social media. But I didn't say that because then I'm therapy. I'm a counselor. And it's like, no. I'm like, oh, I'm sure somebody's going to tell me. My partner, my mom, my friends.
It's funny that I think if I were in your shoes in that case, I'd be like, isn't like, I that's kind of the point. I don't want.
Well, that's also, that's also the point. That's a good point.
Like that's, I don't know. And not to get into any like what sources are trustworthy or not, but it's like, maybe I just don't want to hear anything.
Well, and again, I'm going back
what
to
does it add?
Even if the source is trustworthy, how are they presenting it? What is the wording being used? Because I will say sometimes there are really sources that I consider top notch that I'm like, oh God, okay. So they're doing this and I'm just not going to participate. But I wanted to bring up before I forget, have you ever read the book, The Four Agreements?
Nope, but I'm going to write it down.
It is a amazing book about what we're even talking about right now, and that is words. And so it's called The Four Agreements because there are 4 agreements, but all of them basically pertain to the first agreement, which is to be impeccable with your word. And according to the book, that the word impeccable, like the prefix, I don't know, I'm really horrible with language. It's like without, and then peccable or something is sin. So it's like to be without sin in your word. It is kind of like, I don't want to say it's a religious book. It's based off of Tolic wisdom. I don't know what it's called. If that's not your thing, I think the meat of it is the most important part. But
I love it. I've pulled it up. I just sent a sample to my Kindle. It says in the 4 agreements, Don Miguel Ruiz, I probably said that wrong, reveals the source of self-limiting beliefs that rob us of joy and create needless suffering. Based on ancient Toltec wisdom, the 4 agreements offer a powerful code of conduct that can rapidly transform our lives to a new experience of freedom, true happiness, and love.
Oh yeah, I buy those books in bulk and give them to my patients because
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big book at all. It's really small and the font's pretty damn big.
Oh, sign me
Um,
up.
yeah, and it's a pretty quick read, and I find myself rereading it because I think every time I reread it, and I brought up Brene Brown because there are some videos that she has on guilt and shame, and that's the one that I think would be really good for you to watch when you have these questions of how do we keep doing this, because she talks
Yeah.
about bravery and
Yeah.
kind of what makes people like what separates courageous people. I can't remember what the word is she used. She uses a specific word, but it's courage. It's the willingness to step into the arena even though you might get defeated, but it's the fact that
Right.
you stepped in there, period. And that's kind of what I
Mhm.
mean about if it's not challenging or if I'm not feeling some kind of discomfort, I'm not going to grow, because the moment
Yeah.
I introduce myself to that, well, now this is no longer new, just like the podcast, right? Like I feel much more calm and able to just flow than I did the
Yeah.
first time, because we're beyond that. But
Yeah.
definitely recommend the Four Agreements. Um, I usually tell my patients not to bring the book back, to give it to someone else that they think might need it,
Oh, I love that.
because I think that's the best thing, because once you read it, it's like, oh my god, this makes so much sense, and the examples he uses. And there's also a fifth agreement, but I just say go for the four, and really it's all about that first agreement, to be honest with you.
I feel like there's something very special and maybe even unmatched. Maybe there's a video game analog to this, but like gifting a book is so wonderful. Like you've got to read this. Like you don't see that with like I'll gift you a movie or anything. Like there's nothing quite like it. And it's almost a lost art. Like the art of the recommendation, I think, is fascinating. It's part of so much of what like content creation really is, whether we realize it or not. But like matching a person, especially like I think that's the thing that differentiates it actually with the recommendation of the book versus like content creation, where we can just like blurt stuff out and maybe 4 people go, yeah, that sounds good to me. I'll pick it up and hashtag influencer. But like if I see you through this conversation go like, I've got a book for you, I don't know what it is, man. Like there's something very special about that.
Well, it's very personal, right? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
like feeling like you're seen, or I I was laughing a little bit because I will never forget. I used to work at a place that's not very. People don't have
GameStop. I got it.
No, it was Walmart. People don't have
Close.
lovely thinking about it. And
Sure.
One of my coworkers, she was like a kindred spirit. I don't know what it was, but she's now a lawyer. She was going to start going to college to be a lawyer, and I just felt so old compared to her, and like just so knowledgeable. And the funny thing is, we both got each other Christmas gifts, and they were books.
That's
And our
awesome.
coworkers were like, "Who gives a book for Christmas?" But we didn't even plan on giving each other books. I just thought it was the most hilarious thing, or like kismet, as I would say. That
Yes.
look at this. We're literally thinking on the same wavelength. Something I tell people when they're like, I don't know what to get you for your birthday, I'll say, give me your favorite book, because that tells me something about you. Like I love that. To me, that's an easy thing. I was actually, before the pandemonium happened, I was a part of a Facebook.
That sounds like it's way more fun, actually. Like the pandemonium.
I know. Even hearing Joe and Kyle talk about how they don't want to joke about it, I'm like, no, I will joke all I want. I'm
well,
not
that's what I
letting
was
that
saying
go.
to Donnie. I should have used that in his example, because I used a much darker example, and I regretted it as soon as I said it. But that's ultimately like what I was getting around to. It was like, don't tell me what I can laugh at, man.
No,
Because like sometimes they just need like a good pandemic joke. You know, like, do I get to be more qualified than the next person to go like, you know what? The pandemic hurt me very, very deeply. It sucked. But give me a good COVID-19 joke, damn it. Like, I need a laugh. Good God. Like, what else? Yes. And if somebody else doesn't want to hear it, go away. Cool. Yes. Yeah.
You don't need to be negative toward me because I was negative. I don't know. I just think I watch a lot of drag race, drag queens, RuPaul's Drag Race, and they were talking about, growing up gay and how they had to be funny because that helped people kind of want to be around them. And it also helped the bullies kind of not bully them. And I was like, is that why I use humor? So here I am being schooled out off RuPaul's Drag Race. And they were talking about but laughter can be healing. Like if we don't allow ourselves to, it's funny. I think about like, have you ever had something scary happen to you and then you start laughing?
Yes. I have a very vivid memory.
A friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's our body telling us you need to laugh. You need to get it out.
You're not even thinking about it. Like it's as involuntary as breathing. You just find yourself like giggling. You
just do it.
At how scared shitless you just got.
Yeah. And it probably was nothing. It's funny. What was I watching? I was watching something stupid and it wasn't even scary, but I love scary movies. And I'm laying here on the couch, my favorite place. And the TV just made this loud sound and I'm okay. Yeah. So there's video. You can see me. I'm laying there with my weighted blanket.
This visual.
Here I am laying there and the TV did the thing. And I was like literally scared. And then I just start laughing and my partner's like, what's so funny? And I'm like, I'm so stupid. I don't know why my body did this like against the weighted blanket. Like I'm going through an earthquake. It was so funny. And I laugh at it even now. Sometimes when I'm laying on the couch with my weighted blanket, I'm like, let something scary happen this time. But it wasn't even scary, Sean. Anyway, the point of all this was before the pandemonium, I was a part of a Facebook feed where you would message someone and you would send them your address and they would send you their favorite book and you would send the next person your favorite book. And so it was just like a whole bunch of people sending people their favorite books. I didn't read it, but the point is I'm going to read it because it's actually a therapy book too that they recommended.
I wish that there must be, I feel like there's a website or a service for everything nowadays. Number one, I wish that there was, instead of like these, like they send a whole meal to you. All I want is just like cooked rice and chicken. Like that's all I want. Just like send me that. That's unrelated. But what got me actually thinking about that, because that was another thought I had earlier today. I'm like, I don't want pizza takeout or anything. I don't want a chef or anything. I just want a very plain, basic meal. I will eat it. If it just shows up my door, it's hot and healthy, I will eat it. I will pay for that service. Somebody please start this service. But what I was actually thinking of like is even within our community, in the Discord or the collection of communities that we find ourselves all attached to, like it is a tall order to go like, hey, stranger from the internet, send me your address and I'll send you something. Like if only there was a way to have something in the middle, something in the cloud, something secure where it's like, my name is this and the system knows that my address is this. And so you would be able to send me something without knowing my address. You just pick the recipient. I guess it's sort of like a PayPal kind of thing.
Well, I was also thinking if you send it digitally, right, I could always send it through to their email, or whatever their email is on Amazon. Yeah, was it Court
like,
that
did we
was
just
talking
start the
about
book club? The Carpool Gaming
Court
Book
was
Club?
talking about how secretive you are about where you are. And I thought, I admire that about people, that they really just don't like much information out there about themselves. Because if I want something, I'm going to tell you exactly where I'm at.
There are a few things left that aren't known about me on the internet, and
I believe
some people have. It's silly because I'm actually quite inconsistent about it, because I have sent thank you cards to people with my return address on it. So.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's healthy, right? I think we do need to be cautious.
I just didn't want. I knew Court was going to send me something Jar Jar, so he was not getting my home address for that.
I won't say what it was, but the point is, I started to think Sean is pretty private about certain things, but again, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's very healthy. But
what do you want to know about me? What am I private about?
Oh no, I just meant like the Facebook group, like sending my address to this person. It was a group that I'm.
You know where that comes from? What I work with with a large donor database, so we've had to become very sensitive to the data integrity of that. Like we can't just let like a list show up somewhere else. So
yeah, they don't want to get into your OnlyFans account, Sean. So
not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. I'm still working on it. Still under construction.
I've sent that video to so many people. It's still hilarious to me. I'm like, this, one of my favorite podcasters thinks of me when he watches this video. They're so funny.
Yeah.
But again, I understand the whole privacy, but I wouldn't just, this was a group that it was like, okay, I trust these people to, it's like friends of friends, but we're the only ones in the group. And it was like, again, before the pandemic. So we could all just, expand our books. Because I don't necessarily know that it's always about the recommendation, because I find that hard to like, oh, this is the perfect book for you. But when it comes to when I hear people tell me they think a lot, and when they start to get down to word choices, because again, that's very much me, I recommend that book, The Four Agreements, because it really is eye-opening itself. And it's so quick. It's a very quick read. And that's coming from somebody who struggles to read.
It seems like you've got a pretty good kind of self picture of yourself. You describe yourself, you describe your thought process. Like you have that awareness, I think, is the most general way to kind of describe that. I know it's probably always evolving, but like, when did you sort of like become aware of that? If that's too meta, like, when did you start to realize that you could talk about yourself and describe yourself, and probably in a fairly accurate way that matches, or at least acknowledges, how other people might perceive you?
Yeah. So there's this story about me at a counseling center, and I worked with this person. We were very close. I thought she was amazing. And I gave her some feedback about a group we were doing together. And she completely flipped, Sean, cussing me out, throwing the middle finger at me, telling me, if I think I'm so good, why don't I go and run the group? It was this whole bunch of stuff. And during that entire thing, I'm just sitting there and telling myself, she is hurting right now and she's upset. And this isn't about me. This is about something else. I just happened to say the thing at the moment. That was it for her. And one of my coworkers pointed that out to me. They're like, do you realize that takes like a lot of self-containing? Because I wouldn't have reacted like that. I would have gone off on her as well. And there might've been, I'm like, but I know that wasn't me. Yeah. I think that's a big part of things, is a lot of this is not, spoiler alert, people, it's not about us.
Not about, yeah.
Even me being negative.
We're all up here.
It's probably because I've already had too much negative for the day. And then I just saw that one more thing. It's like, okay. And then there's my fingers messaging. I think you said something once too, that I'm like, I'm going to do that. You like type it all up, but then you just delete it or you don't send it.
Just don't send it. Yeah.
I started doing that, awesome. Especially with emails. I'm like, well, per my last email, as I said before, okay, I'm just going to go talk to them.
I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was some sort of like guideline around that. It's like, I feel like it was something quick and jargony, like check the 3 C's of like who would read this. And I don't even know if it was the 3 C's. It was something like your CEO or your partner or something, like, or your mom or something like that. Like there's like 3 kind of checks, and it's like, I'm not perfect on that. I even had a terrible typo earlier today. But I at least try to think about that, especially whenever things are getting a little bit heated. And I used to, in real life, this would happen where I would actually get quite excited, but not in like a happy, excited way. I'm like, I cannot wait for it to be my turn because I have something to say about this. And as soon as when you say like realizing something, I felt like the intensity kind of like building up in me. And instead of, I would go with it, I'd be like, then I definitely have something to say. I've got this clear thought in my head and I'm motivated to say it. So here it comes. And I actually like, those are usually now the times where I maybe just pause for a second. Again, definitely not perfect on that, but it's,
well, no one's
that was within
perfect.
Probably the last 10 years. Yeah. Well, and I want to like clarify that, even just like, I think a lot of our conversation tonight has been like in an endeavor to be better, to live more positively. And sometimes it can be in a way of like stating what that looks like, but that it's not always like that. It might not even be ever. Maybe it's never like that. I don't know, but
and we don't have to take it so seriously, right? Like again, when I think about previous things I would be, how am I going to get through this? I look at it now and I'm like, what did I mean? How am I going to get through that? You just show up, like just get there. Like, what do you mean? How are you going to get through it? And so I think it's not just trying to think positive, but trying to, again, use it against ourselves, right? If my mind is trying to tell me, avoid that. Let me make myself get to that, or ask myself, what is it I'm afraid of? Right.
Yeah.
Because usually what I'm afraid of is not going to really happen, or maybe it does, but then I'll know, but I won't know if I don't try. Or I think I've seen a lot or heard a lot of growth in you over the time since I've started listening. Very grateful that Bad Bit went on this other podcast that I listen to a lot. And then I'm like, oh my God, this dude's hilarious. And then listening to Trophy Room and then seeing you and the community and whatnot. But
if you go back, I don't even know if it's on the same feed or not. But I throw this out there because Kyle and Babbitt and Ryan and I we're about to jump on a podcast together pretty soon. And Kyle always sweet, like Kyle is a sweetheart, and Joe and I are the ones who kind of like battle it out, and Kyle and Ryan are off to the side, and they're just like, we're just happy to be here. Every once in a while, I just want to like tell Kyle, like, you're gonna get this too, man. I'm gonna be coming after you a little bit as well, but.
Well, I think when I think about y'all, the four of you, by the way,
so funny.
I think you and Joe are the middle children who are constantly fighting.
I actually am a middle child.
No, I know. Kyle is the baby, and Ryan is the eldest. And I don't mean like literally older, but I mean he's the older child, so he's just calm and collected and looking at y'all fight. And that's how I kind of see.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah, well, where I was, I think I lost my train of thought for a moment, but I look at Kyle and I'm like, yeah, you should be happy that you're on that show, because like it was me. If you go far back enough on the Trophy Room, when I think it was, I don't even think it was called the Trophy Room, but I think it was actually just called the PlayStation Podcast or something that like Joe probably couldn't end up calling it that for the long term, anyways. Yeah, I was on the show for I think 3 or 4 episodes, and it was close. It was close. But Babbitt doesn't like Canadians, so couldn't have been perfect.
He doesn't like
or something
Canadian
like that.
Bacon.
Something biased like that. But
that sounds.
No, I love that. It's so funny because like we have our own PlayStation podcast that we could rival with, but it's not as fun. It's way better.
It's also not your style, though. I think that's the thing.
Right.
It's not that serious. My mind just keeps going to. It's not that serious.
It's video games, and I actually think it was Lord Cognito from the Iron Lords podcast who was talking about that with a variety of different people who generally like gaming communities just like hate. They've got they've got a pretty good hate on for probably like 4 or 5 different people, and Cog put it in a way that like just shifted my mind. I don't know exactly the words that he said, but I'll never forget the sentiment, which was when we were growing up. Wouldn't it have been amazing to have everybody on the playground just love video games? Like we were the outcasts, we were the weird ones, and everybody else was cool, and they all got to have a really good time. Like, wouldn't it be great back then if like we were all finding each other like this? And now here we are on the internet, all finding each other through video games, and we're fighting. And it's like, dude, like it's so backwards, and it's the danger of forgetting where you came from that Cog just gave me like that instant flashback, and it's like this shifts everything. Suddenly, like even if somebody isn't popular or if somebody is being hated on or whatever, it's like I'm shifting my thinking so much. Like it's just not worth it.
Gosh, I hate that my brain starts to think about this psychologically. We're kind of conditioned to do that, though, right? We've got to separate ourselves in nearly every situation somehow. I say that as in we other people, right? Like, oh, I know I like video games, but I don't like those video games.
Right.
Things like that. Or that is kind of part of our psychological being as well, it's like a reflex to other people.
Is that about like trying to be special or unique or something? Is that what you kind of mean?
Well, we could say that. So according to my guiding theory, the theory I use for counseling and kind of seeing my patients, the lens I use, the idea behind people wanting, more people to like us, more people to have in our life is really about survival, because the more people like me, the more resources I'm likely to get. Sorry for making this such a boring conversation, but yes, that's kind of the idea. The more attention I get, the more money I'll get, the more women, the more men, the more whatever it is to feed that. So, but it could be the whole I'm unique, I'm special, a number of things.
That's a crazy thing to think. I think it was a comedian, I can't remember who it was talking about how whenever we watch a movie, we think like, oh, that would be me. I would be like the star of the movie. And it's like, you're not even an extra. Like, there's so many of us. Like, none of us are like, there's nothing special about any of us. Like, we're all like just another person. You know what I mean? We're like, we look at all the other random strangers on a bus and it's like, you're the same. Like, that's a mind F,
Yeah.
Like, that's just a lot to deal with.
But we're unique, right? Mm-hmm. We call those patients, by the way, oh, this is the unique patient. They're not like the others who literally have the same story. But I was just watching Prey with my partner. And
I got to get on this. Everybody, did it just start today?
Sean,
like everybody's.
It just came out today. It is insanely good. It is probably the best Predator movie I have, and I liked Predator because it reminds me of my grandfather. So good. Anywho.
Wait, what? Wait a second.
Oh, because my grandfather would watch it over and over and over.
Okay.
The movie. My grandfather wasn't a Predator. But anywho, we were just watching it, and as we're watching it, I'm sitting there like, I wouldn't have done that. No, I would have just rolled over and went to bed. I would have gone and picked those leaves like they asked me to. I'm not gonna hunt nothing. That dog better come back with them. Like that was me as I'm watching it, and I think I do this with everything. When I'm watching The Walking Dead, I'm like, oh no. See, they need to pick another weapon up because that weapon already broke. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we do that. We're unique.
Well, Donnie and I think we're talking about this as far as like a reset on the day goes. Sometimes you just like you find yourself like just failing at like some sweet hangs. Yes, look at that shirt.
Sweet hangs, Donnie.
I literally I did it today actually. I don't even, who knows where my mind was at, but I went to go pick up a can to go put it in the recycle. And like I didn't think I was doing anything else. I watched my hand go to reach for the can and knock it over. I didn't like it wasn't even close. I didn't like grasp my hand around it. And it almost happened in slow motion where I was like, as the can was falling over, I'm like, what just happened?
You
like
had a
what?
Stroke,
how
Sean.
did that happen?
That's a stroke.
I think so.
That's where my brain would have gone.
So I swore at myself instead, like you.
Or maybe you were channeling your inner cat and you decided you were just right off instead of.
Honestly, yeah, it happens. It happens every once in a while. It's like it's a misstep down the stairs. It's it's just klutzy. It's just clumsiness, really. And maybe that's a full
maybe
brain
in your head. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I found myself doing that.
It did feel like well, I don't know. I can't say it felt like a stroke. I don't know what that feels like, but it was like it was like a lapse. It was like a glitch in the Matrix in my mind. It was. Like,
it was a stutter. Was it? Yeah, it was like a stutter.
It totally was. That is so, because it's like there's no undo, and like thank goodness every time I talk about this sort of thing, it's like totally inconsequential. It's all like a glitch, and like suddenly I was in the middle of the street.
Everyone, we're not making light of strokes. Please don't come for us. It was just a joke, but yeah, it could. So my brain goes to the worst. It's like, oh God, I'm having a stroke. It's like, Jose, you're just thinking too much, and your software needs updating.
Yeah,
there are bugs in your programming, and you just did it on accident.
Oh man, I spent 10 years at a cancer hospital, fundraising for a cancer hospital. So like every headache was, well, I have brain cancer, obviously. Yeah. Like when it's just your entire world, it's like stomach ache, colon cancer, like everything was cancer. It's like the joke that everybody self-diagnoses on WebMD or whatever.
Oh
it's
God,
like,
WebMD. I have to really stress to my patients, do not type in anything related to symptoms because you will have cancer or syphilis and you will die immediately. In fact, you're probably supposed to be in the ER or whatever. So just don't do it. But they do it. And it's like, okay,
now you told them not to. So like, don't push the button.
I know.
Don't push the button.
Gosh,
they push the button.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah. So you're out of podcast somewhat. Are you playing anything? What do you got going on there with your no Xbox household over there?
I started to think as well when we talked last. I'm like, wow, I love punishing myself. When we last talked, I was playing Returnal, where I was dying and waking, and I was equating it to real life because at the time I was working from home, and so it was like I get up, I come over here, I die, which means I go back to sleep. I get up, I come back over here. Well, I'm playing this small, very niche, very only a select part of
hidden
the internet
gem.
knows about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. There we go. A hidden gem. You have to know to get it right. Called Elden Ring, and I'm like, wow, I just really love punishing myself.
What the heck?
So that's basically what I'm playing because everyone keeps talking about it. The reason I didn't want to commit to it is because I have a new dog, and new dogs need attention all the time.
Like a puppy, or like new to you, or like new to the world?
So he's a year old as of last month.
It's pretty new. Mm-hmm.
And so he's like a lab mix, and I didn't know that they had all this energy. And so he's just, I mean,
why would you research it before you get the dog?
So here's what happened.
That's for fools.
You and I talked about having we both had Corgi Border Collies, and my dog passed away literally the day after we recorded the last We the GamerCast.
I don't think I realized that. Holy crap.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, great. And that was kind of a theme at the time because I was also on television. And the day after I recorded to be on television, somebody very significant in my life died. I'm like, okay, so what are you doing, universe? Really testing me. Anyway, Jose wasn't in a good place. Fast forward, now we have this new dog. And we were going to, and hopefully my partner doesn't listen to this, we were going to adopt a dog that was very house trained, also new. The dog's name was Boots. Very beautiful. I wanted it. I love the name Boots. And then his friend messaged him about a stray that he found in his yard. And the stray was very bad. I mean, do you know what mange is? I'm sure y'all have mange up there.
Probably.
Okay. It's basically like
totally
scabies.
not Googling it.
Oh my God. It's basically like scabies for dogs. And so, I mean, the dog was very bad. I can post a photo in the Discord of I think I did post a photo of what he looked like and then versus what he looks like now. Cause he was like scarred up and everything. I mean, it was ugly. So of course my partner wanting to save everything and everyone, he wanted to go with that dog. And I'm like, well, one, I'm not touching it because there's Jose Googling symptoms, right? What I told my patients not to do. And it was like, yeah, so while it's very rare that mange can transfer into humans, I'm like, nope, there's a possibility. That'll be me not touching the dog. So I didn't touch the dog for 2 weeks. But anyway, the point is, dog needs a lot of attention. I think I have the dog with ADHD. There's nothing wrong with ADHD, everyone. I'm not coming for people with ADHD. I just wasn't anticipating
just extra attention.
And so I don't like playing games that I can't pause. And you can't pause Elden Ring. And so that's kind of what pushed off me playing that for a long time. Because now he's a bit better because we do take him to daycare. And sometimes I threaten to leave him there. Especially when he tries to go after my PlayStation 5, which you can't see, but I have it tucked. It's horizontal. You
need like the thing in front of the Mona Lisa, like a plexiglass.
Oh my God, that would be nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like when you like baby proof houses, like you need to puppy proof. Yeah,
I didn't. He's chewed up this table. I'm sitting on a higher chair because
I'm having flashbacks.
He's chewed up all. I'm like, what are you doing? What do you mean you don't want your toy, but you want this table, and you want to eat all of it, and you're not sick?
Welcome to hour a day exercise for this lab mix. It's probably like a Aussie something, like some crazy energetic dog that just oh my gosh.
He's hilarious though. He will watch TV with me. He loves watching scary movies with me. I made him watch Euphoria with me so he'll learn what addiction looks like. And so he will understand not to play with drugs when he goes to school.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, he's hilarious, but that's really mostly what I've been playing. I've also been on a little bit of a video game, like, I don't know what to play. I heard y'all talking about...
Have you tried the tournament bracket, Jose? Have you tried the tournament bracket approach? Can I recommend the tournament bracket?
Here's the thing. When I heard you say the tournament bracket, and I'm like, God, Sean and I are the same person.
Yes, finally I have found my kin. Yes, let's do it.
Because we talked about spreadsheets being sexy, and I'm like, oh God, Sean, how you're me, but north of the wall. So I don't use a bracket. What I do is I'm like, okay, Jose, what are you like? Even have like the slightest desire to play? And I have this app called Tiny Decisions.
Yes, I have the same app.
Yes. And I will tiny decision 30 games, Sean, not just 5. It's like, okay. And then it'll land on one. And this is notorious. I will say 2 out of 3. Nope. and it's whichever comes best, 2 out of 3.
Yep.
Then I'll try it. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do this. Let me do what the next one is.
But that is, and I'm glad that I think that we're in a safe space, and we
Very
obviously agree on this thing. The beauty about that as a path to find the game that you want to play is you find out in an instant, is that the game that you actually want to play? Like if you have that, like it lands on the thing, you go like, oh, that's not the game.
Do it. Yep.
Take it out of the mix. Like you move on until it lands on something. You're like, oh yay, this game. Like that's the reaction you should be having. And so, but you can't be too self-aware of that. You can't like, you just kind of have to realize it afterwards. Maybe you like leave it for a day or two and then you go like, okay, another spin. What's the next one going to be? But that was the precursor to the tournament bracket because I came too aware of like the reaction I was looking for after the spin. And it's so funny because you download the app. Anybody who's had Tiny Decisions, it's like, here's some like sample things. It's like, do I want like apple pie or pumpkin pie or whatever? Like it's totally inconsequential, like truly tiny decisions. And yeah, you and I loaded up with a few dozen games to play.
And then I end up not playing any of them. And my thing, you talked about this, just where it's so saturated with games. It's like I play this and I really noticed this. My mother-in-law and nephew came into town and he's 4. Also, I'll never have children, by the way. We're playing on the Switch, and he's like, every other game was, can I play a different game? Can I play a different game? Can I play a different game? After like 2 or 3 minutes. And I'm like, well, we're not even through the tutorial. And he doesn't know what a tutorial is, Sean, because he's 4. And I'm like, oh my God, this is me. Like, I start a game. I'm not really into it. It's like, oh, what's next? Oh, what's next? And then before I know it, it's midnight. And you said this the other day that sometimes Chelsea will ask you at 10 at night, like, do you want to start a new game yet? No, I don't want to start.
Are you nuts? It's 10 o'clock. Well,
again, Sean, it's like we're the same person.
I appreciate, if nothing else, we can at least find solace in each other's ridiculousness and struggles, but also the positives, of course, as well. About an hour before we started recording, I was talking to Chelsea, who's on the road back, and I'm like, an hour is a weird amount of time before some sort of appointment or something. Like, what do you do in an hour? Like, I'm not going to start a game. I could do this, and like I could do all this stuff. And she goes, she says the obvious thing, which was why we get along so well. She's like, well, the longer you think about it, the more certain. Like, you're not going to have anything to do. So like, pick something and do it. And I went to the local rec center and I sat in the hot tub and did some thinking just before this. I'm like, I've got enough time to, like, it's a 10-minute drive. I can go sit in it for 10 minutes, shower, dry off, come over here, 10 minutes back. And it's like, that was perfect. And I'm so happy with that decision, to be honest with you. I'm like, it's so simple, like I've got this pass and I could have done a million things, and I could have spent the hour listing out all of the things that I could have done. I could have cleaned a little bit more. I could have played a game. I could have read a book. I could have which is a blessing in and of itself. Look at this cornucopia of things that we can do.
All these video games. I think that's the thing about thinkers. And I tell my patients that are thinkers, and I'm telling them, when I'm telling you this, I'm telling myself as well, that we've got to not think. We've got to just do. Yeah. No more planning. Yep. No more when this, then that. Just do it. Just go. Yeah, man. Because then you'll see oh, wow, I'm really happy I did that. And I think that's really great that Chelsea, she just knows what to tell you, right? To get you out of it. I think that's the thing about having partners, is they kind of really do have that mirror that they're like, you're just going to do this. It's okay. You could do that.
It's definitely the benefit. I don't know if you're the same too, but I'd like to think of myself as being more spontaneous than I am, but I'm really not. I don't think that I'm really surprising anyone with anytime I do anything, they're like, yeah, that's about right. So for Chelsea, she knows when to say something that it can actually have an impact, and other times she knows well, kind of no matter what I say, you're just going to be in this. So you deal with that. And it's actually the best thing that she could possibly do. No.
Wow. Cause that's really great. That's growth. What she does, picking and choosing and knowing exactly.
She just knows. It's
right.
Well, you used the word motherly before. It's funny. Cause I was, this was weird. I was coming through some of our old messages in Facebook Messenger. That's, as it turns out, I totally forgot this was a thing. Chelsea and I have known each other for over a decade at this point. Been married for 8 years. Yes, 8. I totally knew that. But Facebook Messenger is in our early days. That's how we talked. We didn't text. We didn't do, it was all on Facebook. So it's all there. All our history.
You only got 150 texts a month, Sean. You weren't going to text everyone.
So
and true. Don't call me until after 9.
At 10 cents exact. Oh, no. My evenings and weekends.
And if you send me a photo, you will pay, because I'm not
send
paying
me a check as well. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you're going through Messenger.
I don't even know what I was getting at, but she always knew what to say. So it was there from the beginning. She's always just known what to say. But it was just very cute to kind of go back and look at how what a weird thing. This is not something that has existed for couples and partners in relationships in the past, where you could literally go back and go what was it like? It's all there. It's our full amazingly long conversations, not just and so now that we've been married 8 years and we've known each other for obviously longer than that, and it's what was it like before? Okay, so you're doing this on Saturday and you're doing this after this, and where did you do it with the kids? And it's all planning. And I remember thinking, this is me overthinking things even back then, early in our relationship, and any relationship I had, I'm like, I don't want the conversation to get so dull that all we're doing is talking about what we're doing next. I found myself sometimes I would find myself in relationships where it'd be okay, so tomorrow, what are we doing? It's that's all that we were talking about was what the next day had in store. Next? And I always thought that was kind of lame. It was a bit of a sign that we actually didn't have anything substantial to talk about. And but unfortunately, life gets so busy, it's that does seem like maybe that is what we're talking about now. So it was good to go back and go we talked about all sorts of weird stuff. And it was very fun. It was very, I don't know, rejuvenating in kind of a way. You got to look exactly what the early days were like. And I don't know if anybody else would ever do that sort of thing.
Reminisce on it. And
yeah.
I think that's great that you have that. Sometimes I feel bad that I can't remember when my partner and I met. I know.
You don't know when you first met?
Listen, so I'm going to tell you something. Again, hopefully he doesn't listen. We met through a hookup app, but we weren't intending to hook up. And
You're going to have to clarify that.
Yeah, so, I don't know if you know about apps targeted for gay men to kind of meet other gay men. That's really what the apps are for, but most gay men, we tend to use it.
I've not downloaded one yet.
Okay, well, when you get your OnlyFans. But anywho, when you go on this app, it's predominantly known for hookups, but you could not use it for that. I tell my patients that all the time. You could keep it in your pants. Your phone is what I'm saying. But
an option.
The point is,
okay.
That was kind of like we just chatted because we were close to each other. But we were also both kind of talking to somebody at the time. Not exclusively. I promise y'all, I'm not a homewrecker or anything like that anymore. But the point is, so we kind of just like drifted, but we talked, and I'll never forget, we hung out one day because I needed to go on the topic of cell phones that are like flip phones and you only get so many minutes. I needed to go get a charger, and I was just randomly like, hey, do you want to go with me to the mall? And we did, and it was fun. And he met one of my friends, and I wasn't even planning on him meeting anybody. And then there was an event at the college I was going to called GPA, your gay point average. And I really wanted to go to it. It was about like gay history. I know, Sean, very gay. So I was like, hey, do you want to come with me?
GPA is changed for me forever now. Like whenever, gay oh my gosh.
Average. Yeah. So he went with me, and I can't remember if I shared this last time, but it was when I was working at Walmart. I actually was followed in the store, and they followed me in my car, and they tried to mug me, but they didn't get me at my car, but they followed me home and they mugged me at my house. So at this time I was very like cautious about going anywhere. And I may have carried an illegal taser, maybe, I don't know. It fit in my pocket, so maybe it was there.
This story keeps going places. Okay.
I know. And so I would always have it so I could like turn it on in case I really needed it. So let me tell you when I knew he was the one for me. So we go to the GPA, right, gay point average, and we're leaving, and he's like, I'll walk you to your car. And I'm like, oh, it's okay, I have my taser. And he's like, he does this thing, he's like, I'll protect you. And I just started laughing, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is hilarious. Like, that's my thing, is like, be funny, because life's too boring. And so, yeah, it was at that moment. Now, I remember that day, but I don't remember when we started talking. See what I mean? So that's what I meant by.
But that, I feel like that's, I don't know, maybe I'm just trying to make you feel better. Like, that seems like to be like what matters.
Yeah.
Like, when
I'm
you
like,
just know.
We're still together.
Yeah.
10 years later, we're still together. It's, yeah. So, which is like
it's fun.
80
That's
years
such a
and
beautiful...
gay years.
Is it? It's different?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Straight
especially
years
gay
are
male
different than
years.
gay years?
Now, in lesbian years, 10 years is like a century. I mean, they commit. The gays.
What do you mean?
I'm saying like women, and this is just what I know. Everyone, I'm not coming for lesbians. I love them. They're some of my best friends. Please don't come for me. They commit. Like, they already want to move in. They want to share each other's lawn tools. They want to introduce their cats to one another. They are ready. Gays, it's like, yeah, this weekend's cool. And then next week it's not. And then you're ghosted or whatever. Anywho.
At the end of the day, you're still dudes, right? Like, is that the difference?
I don't know what the difference is anymore, Sean.
Did you ever see the Modern Family? And I think the kids were somebody's kids were in trouble. It was Cam, and I can't remember who he's married to, what his name is. And they're sitting there, and their kid's in trouble, and they got in a fight with another kid, and like, we called in the other parents, and the other parents walk in, and it's a lesbian couple, and they're just like, lesbians, and they did a very similar thing to you, like, okay, like, this is how like gay couples are, this is how lesbian couples are, and it is different. Is hilarious. Oh my gosh, it's very different. And I love that show. I just,
I need to give it another chance. There's something about the main person that I just do not quite like. I don't know what it is, but like historically, the dad. Historically, Jose does judge people right away, and then as time goes on and he gets to know it, it proves to be better. But
think of him as me. Maybe it'll be different. Chelsea thinks that I'm.
They are hilarious. I will never forget. There's an episode where Al Bundy, because I don't know him by any other name.
Mm-hmm.
He has to go to the store for his wife. I can't think of her name, but I just love her. She's hilarious. And he forgets something at the house, so he's trying to get back in, and she's like, his name's Jay, right? I think that's what it is. Mm-hmm. So she's like,
Jay, you started doing the voice.
She's like, Jay, are you at the store? And anyway, so that whole thing is going through, and he's like, no, I'm trying to get in because I forgot blah, blah, blah. And she's like, but you got to go get the bread. And he's like, no, I know, but I have to get in there. And he gets in there, and she's like, so no bread? And I'm just like, oh my God, that would be literally me. Like, I don't care why you're in front of me. I wanted you to bring me bread. And so you don't have the bread.
Like, where's the bread?
But yeah, there's more to it. I just can't fully remember it. And I think I'll be laughing too hard. But he's like honking his horn because the son gets on the phone too. And they're trying to open the gate, but they can't open the gate. So they think the other's going to open the gate. So they both hang up, and he's just like yelling, and it's hilarious.
We've all been there. That's the thing. Like, how do you make something so universal? I love it. It's something that, like, it seems too on the nose in some cases where I shouldn't even like it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's
why I love The Office. Like, I think The Office is you don't like The Office?
No, I did. The reason I just went I went for a walk today with one of my favorite people in the world, and he was telling me about
Marcus O'Neill.
How sadly it was not Marcus O'Neill. It was.
Oh, that's right. He doesn't want to do Pokemon Go with you.
No, and not that Marcus isn't one of my favorite. Damn it. This always happens. I give like a compliment to one person.
This. I'm
like,
sorry.
Immediately, it's like, no,
it's fine.
I get it. This is a person who like genuinely changed the path of my entire life and continues to mold it and has my best interest in mind. Not that any of these other people haven't, but like this person played a really key and continues to play a key role in my life. But anyways, I enjoyed, we probably walked for 15 kilometers, which is like, I don't know, a couple miles anyways. And he mentioned The Office. He mentioned that he was just getting into The Office, and God. He came to realize that there's an episode in season 3 that I'm glad you brought up, because I wanted to remind myself to go look it up, where they go to Dwight's farm, and I think it's his cousin that's there,
Mose, yeah,
or brother, and apparently it's me. I've got to go check this out. I don't remember the episode specifically, but apparently I'm that person, so I've got to go find this out. But it's the second time The Office came up today, so I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I love The Office. I will watch it all the way through once a year.
Yeah.
And I just laugh every time. I was very sad when it came off of Netflix, but I'm not going to get another subscription service.
I know. Where did it go? Like, where do you get it now?
Paramount Plus.
Yeah. No.
That's like asking me to go to Game Pass. I'm just, we're already talking about the plethora of games. So I did want to bring up PlayStation Plus. Like, PlayStation Now, I had it, but then I didn't want it because I already told you, I'm going to put a game on, I'm going to play it for like a minute, and it's like, I'm going to put the next one on, I'm going to play it for, that happened more when I had.
Trust the process. Trust it. Put your faith in.
My faith in tiny decisions.
No, you got to move on from tiny decisions. Tiny decisions is just, that's grade 1. You gotta get to that's 100 level. Oh my God, course.
That's so funny because when I say I know people like us, I have a patient who was telling me that they kind of put their whole life in a spreadsheet. Like, then I'm going to do this, and then I broke that down to this, and I'm like, this. I'm going to tell you right now, you're very young. You have time. Delete the spreadsheet.
You have time.
He was
There's
like,
another life that's ahead
like,
of you.
Delete it. Can you delete it while we're talking right now? It's like, I can. I'm like, just delete it. Yeah, trust me on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't have too many of us in the same room together. Like we couldn't. I don't know. It's probably some. It would be too much thinking.
I think there would be just too much heat from all the thinking that's going on.
We need like thermal paste and like CPU fans, just like cooling off the heads and everything. It's true. But we're just here to keep things interesting, I guess, for those around us, for better or for worse. Before I let you go, because we've chatted for a little while here, Jose, and I cannot wait to have you back on. I always enjoy our chats. This is probably the most on the spot I'm going to put you. For the rest of this year, what's the game that you're still looking forward to? The ones that surely will coming out. I'm guessing it's God of War, but I'm not sure if that's how accurate I am.
It's not. I do like God of War. I do like the God of War. No. Actually, for me, it is Bayonetta 3 because I only purchased my Switch to play Bayonetta 2 because I wasn't going to buy a Wii U. And I literally only got introduced to Zelda because I was waiting for Bayonetta to come out.
This whole time?
2. No.
You've been waiting this whole...
When Bayonetta 2 came out, it didn't come out like right away. But I'm like, I'm getting a Switch because Bayonetta's coming out in, I think it was, I can't remember. And I'm like, what can I play in the meantime? Everybody keeps talking about this Zelda. I guess I'll try that. And I did like it. I did like it.
It's pretty different from Bayonetta.
Bayonetta 3 is is what I'm really looking forward to.
I love it. Man, I am probably the most out of touch when it comes to Bayonetta. I don't want to rain on your parade here. I'm very happy that you said that, actually. But I don't have high hopes for that game, and I'm the only one, as I'm discovering.
I've listened.
Yes.
I hear you saying it's going to get a 70, I think, or something.
Yep.
I don't
65.
care what the score is. I'm getting it. I'm already getting it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. No.
How far out are we from that? It's October, I think, right? I don't know.
I thought it was September. I don't know.
Even know. No, I remember thinking October was pretty loaded, and that was this is me just pooping all over it. It's like they Mario and Rabbids comes out before it, and this comes in just in after it, I think.
Like a few days.
Bayonetta 3, October 28th. Yes,
oh, wow.
The same day as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, actually. The day after Star Ocean, The Divine Force, whatever that is, probably Ryan Turford.
And
game.
Absolutely a Kyle game as well. He loves Star Ocean.
Gotham Knights is on the 25th. What a disaster October is. What in the world?
Well, unless things get
Do you want to do
delayed.
this for a quick second, Jose? Let's just run through. You give me your quick tweet thoughts on these games. October 4th, Overwatch 2.
I'm not a Overwatch player. Like I don't
October
do well.
6th, Nier Automata on Switch. That game's great.
Oh, I love the game, but I'm just looking at my Switch like she's gonna struggle to run that. I don't know.
She can't handle it. Marvel's Midnight Suns on October 7th. I think that's a card game.
I was gonna say I have no idea what that is, Sean.
XCOM.
Can I phone a friend? I don't know.
Seriously. What about Mario and Rabbids on the 20th?
You know, I am not a big strategy RPG type person, but I did start playing it when the nephew was here because I was trying to collect my sanity and not interact with him as much. And I actually really liked it.
It's really good.
So, I mean, it seems interesting. I don't like that now my mind associates Mario with Chris Pratt. That's probably the only thing now.
Yeah. God, what were they thinking? It's not too late. Somewhere somebody is going to like dub that movie or like redub it. Like just take out the Chris Pratt lines and like have somebody else do some sort of like Charles Martinet.
It's going to be like Destiny where they take out, what was his name? Peter Dinklage? Peter
Dinklage, yeah. They put in Nolan North, I think. Yeah. Last one I'll ask you about, Persona 5. Did we talk about Persona last time?
No.
I can't remember.
But I did get the platinum in Persona 5 Royale.
Yeah. Game Pass, coming to Game Pass. Not
I have heard. Yeah, I will never go back to that game. That game was 100 and something hours. My God.
I've embarked on a 100 and something hour quest with Xenoblade, but
that's so funny. I was actually, when you said, well, what can I do before? I'm like, okay, so I have 15 minutes before Sean. Okay, what can I do? Oh, I've been trying to play Xenoblade 2, so let me, and then I don't know if I'm playing it right. Like, that's my problem. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I know I'm fighting, but am I fighting? Maybe I'm fighting myself. And this is Jose's thinking. I'm thinking.
Well, this is why the game takes 100 hours, because you lose 25 to 35 hours of just like, am I doing this right?
Exactly.
I don't know, but you just keep playing. Because
the story is really good.
I never played the second one. I skipped it.
Well, I like the first one. I like that first one
Me too.
story. I mean, it did things I'm like, what just happened?
It just keeps going. It just keeps going.
My gripe with JRPGs is that there have to be like fourth forms and eighth forms. I'm like, I just want to kill you so I can get to the next part. I don't need 9 forms.
Mm-hmm.
That was my biggest complaint with Ni no Kuni, the first one.
I'm not. I gotta see. We need more lives. I need another. Like, I need a life dedicated to like JRPGs. There's so much there. I need to.
There's too much.
This is why I like hanging around with the Ryan Turford, though. This is why you just find people who are good at things.
Oh, I love him. Hearing him and Bland Explosion, Garrett Bland. I love when he called his doppelganger Barrett Gland, I think is what he said. That will forever. That took me out when I heard him say that. I'm like, oh my God, that is perfect,
That's
Garrett.
so good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, hearing them talk about RPGs is just so intriguing to me.
I remember when Ryan first came to me with that idea, I'm like, it is so perfect. Like, it's so central to Ryan's interests, like his knowledge base, like all those things. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm just not searching for the right things, or maybe it's not my interest, but like, I don't know too many RPG podcasts like just dedicated to a genre. I'm like, that is so interesting to me. I always really appreciated that. And I'm very, that probably along with this maybe are more like unique shows. Everything else is like pretty standard at this point. So yeah, that's pretty.
That maybe that's why I like it so much too, is it's not necessarily following. You talked about this. I know we've gone really a lot over today, but you brought up the fact that I think it is different for you all because you are producing podcasts that you want to consume. What's the next thing? But I really found myself waiting. One, because they're likely going to patch something that everyone's complaining about. And two, with that patch, it's probably going to make it more tolerable. Like Elden Ring, hearing everybody talk about it at the beginning and like the map didn't do this or that. And I'm like, well, y'all do know Souls never really had maps before. So it's a blessing to get a map. And then I thought, wow, we're in 2022 and we're feeling that that's a blessing for a map. And so now I play it and I'm like, wow, this seems a lot easier. I will say I do think Elden Ring is the more easy of the Souls because you don't have to go rest to refill your Estus flags or whatever we call it in this one. I'm like, oh
one day I'll get to it. But I mean, Bloodborne was similar. I'm sure there's many other things, but like certainly the load times was pretty unbearable when it first launched. And then, probably 6 to 7 months later, I don't even know if it was that long, but they like cut those things in half, if not better than that. So yeah. And Horizon had better performance mode, like not insignificant things that they adjusted. Like these are pretty, like, and it's probably cheaper. Like there's a lot of reasons why most of us probably should just not play on day one. Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not buying on day one.
Oh yeah, no, like let's not get ahead of ourselves here.
We're still
spending as much as humanly possible.
You were commenting about my steelbooks, and I'm like, yeah, this is steelbook heaven over here, and I'll buy it. Like I bought Deathloop. I played 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I wanted that steelbook. I'm really upset that I didn't get the steelbook for Paradise, the game where the guy says chaos so much.
Oh, the Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That steelbook looked beautiful, and I didn't get it.
Ryan's favorite game.
Yeah. I don't understand that. And I love Ninja Theory, and I love the Neo games. I don't know. Again, it was something about the graphics for me that I'm like, oof.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're alone on that. Jose, you are a treasure, my friend. I always enjoy just like sharing thoughts and exploring the space with you, man. There's not a lot of people who will do that dance with me. And so I really appreciate you. Just like I feel so comfortable, just like, here's what's happening in my brain. So let's just like hash this out a little bit. And I don't take that for granted. I'm very thankful that you carve out time, that we've somehow walked the line of doing that sort of thing without hopefully not getting you too much back into your job mode. And all of your support, and just you're a pillar in the community. I could throw all the things at you, and I have so much appreciation for you, including the 2 hours plus that you've carved out for me tonight, my friend.
Well, I thank you, Sean. I really do mean that it is an honor to get to chat with you and to be invited. And I think I want to also add that it's possible because you allowed this community to manifest itself and to grow the way it has. And I think that's the great thing, that we're only able to be our best selves because people have made that space available for us. And I think that's...
I think about that a lot. Yeah.
I think that's really
It's not
great.
an accident that we find ourselves surrounded by amazing people. Like, that's not really how the universe works, I don't think. Like,
not usually at all.
Yeah, we've got wonderful, like, I love going to the Discord and it's everybody, good morning, or somebody's birthday, and it's this explosion of love, and it's like, it's awesome. So you contribute to that to a huge degree. You make it allowed and you guide us, and I just really appreciate you. So thank you. Do you want to let anybody know where they can find you on the internet, and maybe even let you know that they enjoyed our conversation in the Discord?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much everywhere on PlayStation, on Twitter, on Instagram is at Ask What Not Why. And my home address, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to give my home address.
Yes.
No. Yeah, but that's, yeah. And if you ever need guidance with mental health or want someone to point you in the direction, I am a direct message away, I guess you could say.
I love it. Slide into those DMs that's not usually what people mean by that, but there it is. Jose, I know people have enjoyed this conversation. I thank you so much for being here with me tonight, my friend. You're the best.
Thank you, Sean.
I want you guys to know, well, first of all, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jose, because I definitely did. And that's kind of like one of the weird, it's maybe either isolating or helps me focus. Like, as much as I love and appreciate so much kindness that comes out in the Discord, in the community, and in the comments here after an episode airs, that's the best. I'm never going to take anything away from that, because it really feels, I'm not gonna lie, like, I like to be humble. I like to make sure that I, try to deal with compliments in the best way possible. And I'm not gonna, like, that stuff matters. That definitely feels really good. That aside, when I'm talking to the guest, and in this case, Jose, like, I'm not thinking about any of that. It's really just us, just a nice conversation to have. And it's really weird to have that, like, so separate, to know that you're sitting down to record it. Like, I'm the one hitting record. I am well aware that it's a podcast, but I am so fully, like, paying attention to the other person. I'm not tweeting. I'm not, like, playing games at the same time, Court Lalonde. I'm just so fully engaged. And so it's like this weird dichotomy of, obviously it's a podcast, but I'm just here for a conversation. And it's a weird thing. I might be overthinking it, but what I wanted to get around to is, I'm curious to know if there's anything that I can do to reduce maybe anybody's anxiety for coming on the show. Like, that's kind of the last thing that I want. And Jose and I had a really open conversation, obviously, that you just heard. And I like, you shouldn't be nervous to talk to me. Like, I'm not sure if it's talking to me or the fact that it is recorded to be put out on a podcast, or if there's certain expectations that people put on themselves. Maybe this is just a meta thing about what we even just all talked about, but I'm curious to know, and you guys can leave comments below or talk to me in the Discord or whatever, like, what can we do to reduce that? Maybe there's nothing we can do, but I'd love to open up that conversation a little bit, because I don't want anybody to like sweating bullets, before coming on. I think if you have a podcast, maybe it's a little more natural. Maybe it's just a little, like, just another thing that you're doing. But if you don't have a podcast, or for whatever reason, And I'd like to have more people who don't have podcasts. Nothing against people who have podcasts, but I love talking to just people who play games and have, you know, who aren't really doing this. How am I out of time already? Goodness gracious. Okay, I just wanted to let you guys know that. Support us here on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming. That's how we make all this stuff happen. You guys are amazing. No Bobby clip this week. We're going to have a throwback. I'll see you next week and with a nice special surprise. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Sean, where are you? Jason! 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 Sean! 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 Jason! 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 Jason!